The next robot is Spot Mini, which is the first robot that we, Boston Dynamics, are commercializing. And we have a Spot Mini here. And Ben Swilling is operating it. It's using its sensors to see the terrain. And it's using onboard computers for its gait. You may not know it, but Spot Mini was greeting you just there. So I'm going to give a demo in a couple of minutes, but before that, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the robot. It's also light enough. It weighs about 27 kilos, 60 pounds. It's light enough so that a human can be near it, and at least if you're, many humans are not afraid to be near it because it's not big like our previous robots. It has cameras on it, which I'll show you in a couple of minutes, and it's designed as a platform. So here's some video of Spot Mini operating. There's the old Spot standing up, and Spot Mini can walk through it. Earlier we were on the show floor, and someone got in the way of it by standing like this, and Spot Mini went through its legs. And this isn't a real home, and those aren't real people, those are engineers. This is a mock-up of a home that we use to do testing of the robot to show that it can handle different kinds of stairways and fit in tight spaces. A thing we've learned is that making a robot behave in a very confined space is much harder than making it work out in the woods, because in the woods there's usually a lot of room. It doesn't matter exactly where you go. Here we're showing that the robot can look for footholds and make a planning operation where it adjusts how the body moves and how the feet move to adjust to the environment. Same here. This is not pre-planned. Someone's just telling it to go forward, and the robot is seeing the obstacles and avoiding them. There's a dynamic obstacle. And when you put all the reflexes, controls, and perception together, you can get a robot that works in the unstructured world as well. Now, this is an ordinary chicken, but it does remarkable things. It can keep its head stabilized while its body moves. And we gave Spot Mini the ability to stabilize its hand when its body moves, and it's pretty much what people do. I can hold my hand here and move my body all around it. And that means that the control can think about what the hand's doing, and all the rest of the coordination happens automatically. Here's another demonstration where the software, there's no human involved here. It's using a camera in the hand to find the door handle. It's been told to go through the door. And it's using coordination between the hand, the arm, and the body in order to negotiate. And in this case, it's a good Samaritan letting the other robot get through the door. Now, we're not being mean to the robot. The robot has no feelings. It's not angry at us when we do this. And in fact, we're like proud parents showing that the robot can succeed even though it keeps trying and we keep giving it a very hard time. But we believe that testing like this is the key to making robots that are going to work in the real world and that are going to work well when they're connected to higher level AI processes. And you can imagine applications like the one I've mentioned: security, delivery, construction. We're already doing testing in several of those areas with potential customers. And this robot will be available starting next year. We've built 10 by hand. We're building 100 with manufacturers at the end of this year. And in the middle of 2019, we're going to begin production at the rate of about 1,000 a year. This is like a magic act where it's 3-can Monty. And the robot has a sensor in its hand, and it's going to pick up the can and move it to another space. And we're externally coordinating the robots. And here's a case where we have 4 robots. And really, it's up to all of you to think of the application where you could get a basic Spot Mini and either work with us or with others to build hardware and software that runs on it that solves your application. I'm feeling a little thirsty. Spot, can you get me a soda? So Spot has a camera in its hand. Ben drives it so it's close to the thing, but then it searches with that camera and grabs it. In this case, Ben's driving it, but it could have it automated. Thank you, Spot. Finally, I told you before that Spot is a dynamic robot, and that means it has some gates where it can put energy into kinetic energy and elastic energy. So can you do a little trotting? But I believe as these things mature, this will be the future over the horizon thinking of how to design and build complex systems like robots. Using this approach, we started with a humanoid on the right that weighed about 375 pounds. I don't know what that is in kilograms. It must be 170 kilos or 160 kilos. And we've been able to shrink it down, and both that Atlas robot and I weigh about 165 pounds. I think that robot's got a few pounds on me, but we're about that. And that makes it much more useful design. So here is the Atlas robot out in the world doing a few things. We always try and test it in a realistic environment. Here it's walking, it's using its visual sensor to determine the stairway, very much like Spot Mini does. In this case, there's also a laser rangefinder where Spot Mini uses all cameras. Here, we're taking advantage of the fact that the arms aren't stable on a base, but they're attached to a mobile base, so the upper body and the legs and the arms can all work together to do this manipulation task. If you were to do this with a traditional robot, you'd need a giant robot that weighed probably 1,500 pounds, maybe 700 or 800 kilos to do the same task. And here we're starting to work on getting the robot to work at speeds that are about like human speeds of doing tasks. Not a very friendly working situation yet, but we're working on that. And just as I said before, we love to test the robot. Here the robot's been told to pick up this box. It's using a visual system. In this case, it's using the QR codes in order to be able to see where the box is. It picks it up, and then our guy is being the proud parent and showing off the capability. It's not being angry. Now, I happen to think that dynamic behavior is really an enabler for robots, and so we've been working on making the robot travel faster using dynamics, incorporating the feedback and the energetics, the understanding of the energetics as I described before. And we've been using that to do some new things as well. This is on YouTube, so I'm sure many of you have seen this before. We're working on getting a version of this that we can take to shows, but we're not quite there yet. Thank you. Now a lot of people look at our robots and somehow get psychologically connected to them and ask us about what emotions the robots have and what are they feeling? Are they angry? Are they upset? And if you look at our YouTube site, you'll see lots of people commenting that the robots are going to get back at us and all that. Well, the truth is we don't give our robots any emotions ourselves. But fortunately, the YouTube community has taken up that job. And so I just have 2 videos to show, not made by us. It's our visuals, but their soundtrack. And if the audio people can turn up the sound a little bit.
I love you, Box. Good night, Box.
This robot's really in love with his work.
I love you, Box. Good night, Box. Box.
But the
time to make the f***ing donuts.
But this guy isn't so happy.
All right. Gosh, you got a boot or something. Okay.
Anyway, you get the idea. If you look at it on YouTube, there's a bunch of others. Thank you all for listening. Ben and I will hang around for a while if you want to come up after and play with the robots.